Rihanna disguised herself as a waitress, slipping unnoticed into one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. She wasn't there for a role or publicity. She was there to expose a hidden truth. As she served tables, she witnessed cold stares, rude gestures, and casual condescension. What she uncovered about classism and prejudice behind those elegant walls was more shocking than she'd imagined. What do you think happens when her true identity is revealed? Let us know in the comments. The air was heavy with the aroma of fine dining, truffled butter, aged wine, and freshly baked bread wafting through the restaurant. Beneath the gilded chandeliers, conversations hummed with the low, polished cadence of privilege. Waitstaff weaved between tables with precision, their faces trained into polite masks. Among them was a new hire, a woman with a quiet demeanor and careful movements. Dressed in a simple black uniform, she carried trays of expensive dishes, nodding respectfully to patrons who barely acknowledged her existence. Her name tag read Anne, hidden behind minimal makeup, a modest wig, and an unassuming manner. For weeks she had planned this undercover experiment, determined to experience what life was like for those who worked tirelessly but were often invisible to the world. Her team had helped her secure a position in this high-end establishment, a place where wealthy elites dined, often forgetting that the hands serving them belonged to real people. Rihanna was ready for the challenge, but nothing had prepared her for how blatant the class divide would feel. Her first night on the job was a whirlwind of subtle dismissals and overt microaggressions. A group of young socialites laughed loudly as they ordered, snapping their fingers when she didn't respond fast enough. "I said sparkling water, not tap," one of them sneered, rolling her eyes as Rihanna calmly replaced the glass. At another table, an older gentleman waved her away mid-sentence as she tried to clarify an order. "Just bring me the steak, girl. You're taking up too much of my time," he muttered, returning to his phone. In the kitchen, things weren't much better. Some staff whispered about her behind her back, speculating that she wouldn't last a week. "She's too slow," one muttered. Another scoffed. "Bet she's only here until she finds something better. Typical." But Rihanna wasn't deterred. She absorbed every moment, the dismissiveness, the condescension, the disregard for her humanity. Each encounter added to the picture she was painting of a world that valued appearances and wealth over respect and decency. Then there were the few who surprised her. An older waitress named Maria offered her quiet encouragement. "Don't let them get to you," she whispered during a rare moment of calm. "People like us. They don't see us, but that doesn't mean we're invisible." Rihanna nodded, her resolve hardening. This wasn't just an experiment anymore. It was personal. She was determined to make these people see. As the days passed, Rihanna became deeply immersed in the world of waitstaff. She learned the unspoken rules of the trade. Smile even when insulted. Stay invisible unless summoned, and always put the customer first. But as she observed the dynamics around her, the stark division between those who served and those being served became impossible to ignore. One evening, a particularly boisterous group of businessmen occupied the largest table in the restaurant. Their loud laughter and commanding voices dominated the room. Rihanna approached cautiously, balancing a tray of whiskey glasses. Before she could set them down, one of the men joked loudly, "Careful, sweetheart, that tray looks heavier than you." The others roared with laughter, their eyes on her as if waiting for a reaction. She bit back the urge to retort, simply smiling as she placed the glasses on the table. The moments of humiliation continued. A woman dressed in designer clothes held out a credit card with a sneer. "You probably don't see cards like this often, do you?" she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Rihanna nodded politely, silently seething. But the incident that left Rihanna shaken came later that night. A VIP guest, one of the restaurant's wealthiest regulars, summoned her to his private booth. He was older, with a smug air of entitlement, and his reputation for being difficult was well known among the staff. "What's your name?" he asked, his tone almost predatory. "Anne?" she replied cautiously. Well, Anne, I need someone who can give me the kind of service I deserve. Think you're up to it? He leaned back in his chair, eyeing her in a way that made her skin crawl. She kept her composure, replying professionally, but his dismissive laugh told her everything she needed to know. The tension grew as other staff began to suspect something was off about her. Anne's too composed for a newbie, one server muttered to another. She never seems rattled, no matter what these jerks throw at her. Even the manager, Mr. Grant, started to take notice. One evening, after observing her handle a particularly difficult table, he pulled her aside. You've got potential, he said, his voice a mix of praise and skepticism, but this place isn't easy. Are you sure you can handle it? Rihanna simply smiled, her resolve unwavering. She wasn't just handling it. She was documenting it, storing every word, every action, every sneer and smirk. She was building her case, and the more she witnessed, the clearer her message became. Then came the breaking point. A young waitress named Lily, who had been working double shifts to pay her college tuition, accidentally spilled a glass of wine on a customer's designer jacket. The man erupted, yelling insults loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. Do you have any idea how much this costs? People like you shouldn't even be allowed near something this expensive. He spat, his face red with fury. Rihanna watched from a distance, her fists clenching at her sides. She could see Lily's hands trembling as she apologized profusely, tears welling in her eyes. No one intervened. Not the manager, not the staff, not the other patrons. That was when Rihanna made a decision. She could no longer stay silent. The evening was at its peak, the restaurant bustling with laughter and clinking glasses when Rihanna's moment arrived. The VIP customer from earlier had summoned her once more, his voice carrying across the dining room. He lounged in his private booth, surrounded by equally smug companions, his tone laced with entitlement. He was leaning toward her, his voice laced with entitlement. "Anne," he called, waving a dismissive hand. "Bring us the bottle of 82 Bordeaux, and don't take forever this time." Rihanna calmly walked to the wine cellar, her heart pounding. She had watched this man for days. He wasn't just rude. He embodied everything she was here to expose. His casual mistreatment of staff, the way he bragged about his wealth while belittling those around him, it all boiled down to one thing. He thought himself untouchable. As she returned with the bottle, the man smirked. "Finally, thought you got lost," he quipped, eliciting laughter from his table. Rihanna remained composed, carefully uncorking the wine and pouring it into his glass. But then he pushed further. "You're pretty good at this, Anne. You must have had a lot of practice. Let me guess, this isn't your first dead-end job." His companions chuckled, their laughter cutting through the air. For a moment, the room seemed to quiet, the hum of other conversations fading as the exchange drew attention. Rihanna took a deep breath, her hands steady. Then, with a calmness that belied the storm inside her, she placed the bottle on the table and straightened up. "You know," she began, her voice even but firm, "it's always fascinating how quickly some people forget their humanity when they're handed a menu." The laughter stopped. The man's smirk faltered, replaced by a look of confusion. "Excuse me?" he asked, his tone sharp. Rihanna took a step back, her gaze sweeping across the room. "I've been here long enough to see how people treat those they consider beneath them. The way some of you talk to us, the way you act like your money gives you the right to disrespect someone, it's unacceptable." Murmurs spread among the diners. Some looked uncomfortable, others intrigued. The staff froze in their tracks, their eyes darting between Rihanna and the VIP. The man leaned forward, his expression darkening. "Who do you think you are to speak to me like that?" he demanded. Rihanna smiled faintly. "I'm someone who refuses to stay silent." With that, she reached up and pulled off the wig that had hidden her identity. Her long, unmistakable curls cascaded down her shoulders. Gasps rippled through the restaurant as recognition dawned on the faces around her. "Rihanna?" someone whispered, disbelief coloring their voice. The VIP's face turned pale, his bravado evaporating in an instant. His companions looked equally stunned, shrinking into their seats. Rihanna stepped back, addressing the entire room now. "I came here to see what it's like to work in a place like this, to experience how people in service are treated. And let me tell you, it's eye-opening. The way some of you behave, the way you look down on those who serve you, is a reflection of your character, not theirs." Her voice grew stronger, resonating with conviction. "The person pouring your wine, bringing your food, cleaning up after you, they deserve respect. Their worth isn't measured by their job or their uniform. It's measured by their humanity, just like yours." The room was silent, the weight of her words settling over everyone. Even the staff, who had been skeptical of her at first, watched with a mixture of awe and gratitude. The VIP sputtered, trying to regain his composure. "This is outrageous. You think you can just waltz in here and lecture us?" Rihanna turned to him, her gaze unwavering. "I think someone needed to," she said simply, "and it's clear no one else was going to." The man fumbled for a retort but found none. His companions avoided eye contact, clearly embarrassed. Across the room, some diners began clapping hesitantly, the sound growing as more joined in. Rihanna glanced at the young waitress, Lily, who had been humiliated earlier. She offered the girl a reassuring smile. "To all the staff here, you're the backbone of this place. Don't ever let anyone make you feel less than what you are." As the applause grew louder, the restaurant's manager, Mr. Grant, approached cautiously. He looked torn between pride and worry, unsure how to handle the situation. But before he could say anything, Rihanna turned to him. "I hope you'll take this as an opportunity to make some changes," she said. "Not just here, but in how we talk about the people who work hard every day to make places like this run." With that, she placed her apron on the nearest table and walked toward the door, her head held high. The room erupted in whispers, diners still reeling from what had just happened. The events of that night spread like wildfire. By the time Rihanna returned to her hotel room, the internet was ablaze with videos and posts from diners who had been in the restaurant. Clips of her powerful speech, her unmasking, and the stunned reactions of the VIP customer were everywhere. Hashtags like "respect service" and "exposed classism" trended worldwide. But Rihanna wasn't interested in basking in the spotlight. Instead, she focused on the message she wanted to amplify. The next morning, she released a heartfelt statement across her social media platforms. "I went undercover to understand the realities of those working in the service industry," she wrote. "What I saw was both heartbreaking and infuriating. People judged, dismissed, and mistreated simply because of their job title. No one deserves to be treated like they're invisible or unworthy of basic respect." The post went on to highlight the broader issue. She shared statistics about workplace mistreatment, low wages, and the emotional toll on service workers. She called for systemic changes, including better working conditions and fair wages, and urged her followers to reflect on their own behavior. The impact was immediate. Major media outlets picked up the story, bringing attention to the often overlooked struggles of service workers. Social media exploded with stories from waiters, bartenders, housekeepers, and others, sharing their experiences of mistreatment. Some shared tales of hope, recounting customers who had treated them with kindness and dignity. Lily, the young waitress from the restaurant, posted a message of her own. "I'll never forget what happened last night. Rihanna's words gave me the courage to stand tall and believe in my worth. To anyone working in this industry, you're more than just your job." The restaurant, too, came under scrutiny. Under pressure from the public and with a newfound awareness, Mr. Grant issued a public apology. He announced plans to improve working conditions for his staff, including better wages, mandatory sensitivity training for all employees, and stricter policies against abusive behavior from customers. Double-checking his orders, he settled into his usual routine, firing up a chili recipe stove to test some new recipes. As for the VIP customer, he became the symbol of the problem Rihanna had sought to highlight. His name circulated in viral posts, and his smug demeanor was now the subject of memes and online ridicule. The backlash forced him to issue a public apology, though many doubted its sincerity. A week later, Rihanna sat down for an interview to reflect on the experience. Dressed simply, her tone was earnest as she explained why she had gone undercover. "I wanted to step into someone else's shoes, to feel what they feel and see what they see. It was humbling and eye-opening, and if my voice can help spark change, then it was worth every moment." Her interviewer asked a question that had been on everyone's mind. What would you say to people who think this was just a publicity stunt, that it was just a trick of the mind to spool the story? Rihanna smiled softly. I'd say, good, because publicity isn't the problem here. Classism, if shining a light on this issue makes even one person stop and think about how they treat others, then it's not a stunt. It's progress. Her words resonated deeply, inspiring discussions across various platforms. Schools, companies, and community groups began hosting talks and workshops about classism, inspired by Rihanna's actions. Advocacy groups reached out to her, thanking her for using her platform to elevate an issue that had long been ignored. Weeks later, Rihanna returned to the restaurant, not as a waitress, but as a customer. She requested Lily as her server, offering her a warm smile when she approached the table. Over the course of the evening, they spoke about Lily's plans for the future. Encouraged by Rihanna's support, Lily had enrolled in a business course, determined to create a better life for herself. As Rihanna left the restaurant that night, the staff gathered at the door to thank her. It wasn't just for her generosity or the awareness she had raised. It was for reminding them and the world that everyone deserves to be seen, respected, and valued. And as the door closed behind her, Rihanna couldn't help but feel hopeful. Change might be slow, but it was happening. One conversation, one act of courage, one unmasking of the truth at a time. Before you go, we want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever witnessed or experienced classism or unfair treatment in your life? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters. And remember, small acts of kindness and respect can create ripple effects that change lives. If you enjoyed this story and believe in spreading messages of equality and justice, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring story. Together, we can continue to shine a light on the issues that truly matter. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.